No, it's okay to start. Get ready.
Good afternoon. I'm going to share with you the welcome that I use every Sunday morning at our church. Welcome to you if you are male or female, or a little bit of each, queer or straight, or a little bit of each, black or brown or white, or a little bit of each, old or young, or a little bit of each, rich or poor, or a little bit of each, doubting or believing, or a little bit of each. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you're always welcome here. I'm honored to be standing up here with my interfaith colleague, Rabbi Schiffer, in support of this event to raise awareness about gun violence and to promote the transformation of guns into garden tools. Our country has about 5% of the world's population and nearly half of the world's privately owned guns. There are 5 times more licensed gun dealers in the U.S. than there are McDonald's restaurants. We have about as many guns as there are people in this country, over 300 million. There are over 400,000 crimes involving guns each year. That's nearly 1 crime every minute. We manufacture 9,458,172 guns per year. That's 1 gun every 3 seconds. Every day in the U.S., 321 people are shot, 111 die from gun violence, 65 die from gun suicide, and 22 children are shot every day. Guns are now the leading cause of death for U.S. children. As of this morning, there have been 7 mass shootings since last Sunday in the U.S. The epidemic of gun violence affects us all, whether we own guns or not. Whether we're Republican or Democrat, gun violence affects our children. It shreds lives and families, sometimes for generations. We're here today to raise awareness and to dream of something different. It's an ancient dream, dreamed by prophets of old who sang about hammering weapons into garden tools. To support this initiative going forward, please consider a gift in any amount. You can give online. There's a QR code on the back of your program. And there are also several opportunities to give in person today. And now my colleague is going to share some words.
Can I move it down, please? I can't.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you. Good afternoon. It's such sobering statistics, of course. It's heartbreaking for all of us. And so we gather here. We gather here together. We gather here in this moment to look towards something better, to work towards something better, to give towards something else. We gather for a sacred purpose as we gather with music and poetry and life-sustaining, life-giving activities today. We have a special blessing for coming to a sacred time in Judaism, and I'd love for you to join me in it. And I promise it's okay that you don't know the Hebrew. I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what you're saying. I promise that you don't have to be Jewish to say it. But it's a way of honoring life and honoring coming to a special moment. Baruch atah havaya. Blessed are you, unfolding of life. Eloheinu ruach ha'olam. spirit of the world. Shehechianu, that gives us life. Vikiyamanu, that sustains us. Vihigianu, that brings us. Lazman hazeh, to this moment, right here, right now, today, at the First Congregational Church. And we all say, Amen. Thank you.
We're going to hear now from the Integra String Quartet.
This is a series of tweets written by a man by the name of Brett Cross on September 24th, 2022. This time, 4 months ago, it was a normal day. I was at my office getting a booklet made for each of my coworkers that would show their growth and their skills to help get them raises. 2 hours from then, I got a call that would shatter my world. My wife called, screaming. There's a shooter at Uzi's school. I told my lead I had to go as I was running out to my car. As I hauled ass towards the school, I got another call. He's in the 4th grade hallway, and I can't get a hold of Uzi. The shots rang through my phone as my wife was telling me this. By the time I made it to town, I received a 3rd call. They aren't letting us see or get the kids. Go to the Civic Center. I headed there, not knowing it would be 8 hours of sitting and hoping. As busloads of children got off, Uzi's class never made it. I called my other 10-year-old and asked him to call his friends to see if they had heard from Uzi. They said they hadn't, but they heard it was Uzi's teacher that was shot. I knew. I knew then it was my boy wasn't coming home. I knew I wasn't going to receive the news. I was going to receive the news I had always dreaded. Then we heard Greg Abbott on Facebook confirming 14 deaths, and as we looked around the Civic Center, you started noticing 13 other families. I knew. At 7:30 to 8, we got called back to another room. I knew. To hear the words, "I'm sorry, but Uzziah didn't make it," is the moment my world crumbled. They had made a liar out of me. I always tell my kids that I would protect them and nothing could stop me. I was made a liar by the school system, by the cops, and by that piece of shit shooter. I snuck out the back to avoid media and went and grabbed my car. I picked my wife up at the back and drove home. A 3-minute drive. I had to figure out how I was going to tell my other kids that their brother wasn't coming home. My grief is incomparable to the moment I had to tell them. Some dropped to their knees. One ran to the backyard. One helped me hold the little ones. The wail of my daughter is a sound that stays with me, just as the same as hearing the shots. It's unimaginable. The wail that informed the world that she was broken. Then a daze came. The next few days, I don't remember much, except for sitting on my front porch, running reporters off. It's a daze that still comes over me at times, as I try to escape reality for a few moments, just to come crashing back down with the reality that my little boy will never walk back in this house. It's been 4 months, and nothing has changed. Nobody is being held accountable. Nothing has been done. Us parents should be at home grieving to the fullest, yet we are having to fight every entity imaginable. I'm exhausted. I break down. I have panic attacks that are devastating, but I have to fight, and I will not stop until the real change has been made, and even then I will continue. Our kids deserve better. We deserve better. It's been 4 months.
Our next offering is from Jeannie Goddard and Steve Stoll, part of the Trip Hammer Arts group. You can get more information from them and upcoming events from them at triphammerarts.org. We are honored to have Mark Stradley with us somewhere here. Oh, thank you. and awed at his commitment to come from Buffalo to be with us. Particularly awed because the Bills are playing right now. I think, yeah. And if you like a microphone to hear, or, yeah, that would be great. Sure. Thank you. Afterwards, you heard us in the beginning, and you'll hear it later, that they will be demonstrating some of their work. There will be. And melting down a firearm into a garden tool.
Yes, sir.
Good. Please.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Stradley, and my family and I live out in Buffalo. Lived out there about 15 years, but this is home. I grew up just outside of Ithaca. My mom's side of the family's been here for years, so many summers being on Tunkhannock and hiking and being on the water. So it's good to be back home. So thank you all for making it possible for me to be here today. Raw Tools Buffalo, about 2019, I flew out to Colorado Springs to my buddy's workshop and found out how to blacksmith. And in 2020, we decided between myself and my pastor that we needed to start an initiative. I call it a therapy called Raw Tools Buffalo. What we do is we take donated firearms from individuals, families, and law enforcement, and we turn those we disarm them according to ATF standards, and then they just become hunks of metal and pieces of wood. And then we can make garden tools and other pieces of art that we hope that will bring life and not take it away. I started doing raw tools. It became a vision of mine for many different reasons, but mainly the countless amount of children that I lost. I'm a school counselor. I've been a school counselor in the Buffalo Public Schools for a dozen years or so. And I've had students that have died by suicide. I've had students that have been hit by bullets that weren't even intended for them. I've had students that have witnessed their mother being shot to death in front of them. And then years later, inflict that same pain on another family by killing their daughter. It is generational trauma, right? We know this. And we thought after Sandy Hook, I thought after Sandy Hook, that if there was any time, I don't care what color, political party you stand for, I thought that we'd be able to come together. And it didn't. We literally had kindergartners being massacred in their classrooms, and we did nothing. And I was tired of just being a school counselor, and I knew I was helping kids out, but I knew that there was something else that I was supposed to do. I just wasn't sure what that was going to be. Well, Raw Tools is what it's developed to be. We are doing the work in the city. We travel really wherever we're asked to be. There's a couple I know that it would be helpful for you to know how maybe you could help Raw Tools or partner with Raw Tools moving forward. And I thought of two different ways. The first way would be if you have a firearm. There's many different reasons people buy firearms for protection, let's say, and years later, you have teenagers, and you're not so sure how you feel about maybe having a firearm in the cabinet. And there's people that get stuff donated all the time from their grandfather that maybe used to hunt, and I don't hunt anymore. There's all different reasons why people might want to have their gun disarmed. So if you have one or you know somebody that might be willing to do that, please let us know. The second part of that would be is, you know, it wouldn't be a terrible thing for Ithaca to be a disarming, part of our disarming network. So throughout the United States, Raw Tools has people that literally buy a chop saw, which is about $220 from the Home Depot. And if there's somebody that reaches out to us that says we have a gun for whatever reason that we'd like to be disarmed, we then will be able to look at our network and say, oh, okay, you know, somebody from Owego, New York has a gun that needs to be disarmed. We've got this congregation in Ithaca that has a chop saw. We teach you we give you the documentation that the federal government gave to us on how to exactly what cuts you need to make on a gun to no longer have it be a firearm. So we do that training. So those are two, I think, huge ways that Ithaca could help support the mission of Raw Tools. Last thing I'll say is one opportunity we're going to have today out at the Forge, and again, for anybody that just wants to watch us, feel free to watch, but if you also need to engage, and you don't need to have personally been impacted by gun violence to take part, feel free. We'll have a time, I'll announce it, where if you'd like, we give you the safety goggles and everything, give you some gloves, and you're allowed to, and children, parents, if it's all right with you, they are allowed to as well, and they can hit on a gun that will eventually become a garden-matic. Every gun that has been donated, let's say from a family, the family will get a free tool from that gun, and any remaining pieces will then be used for additional garden tools or pieces of art that are donated free of charge to our community gardens or families who have lost a loved one to gun violence. One thing that's going to be a little bit different today, it's a first-time thing. Unfortunately, we had the events of May 14th in Buffalo, where an individual with hatred in his heart drove a similar distance that I go from my parents that live in Owego to Buffalo, New York, so that he could wipe out 10 of my neighbors. My kids and I buy milk, bread, and eggs from this Tops. I had 2 students that were in the Tops when this massacre happened, this hate crime happened. I'm inspired. It's hard. I love being at a peacekeeper's thing, and sometimes it's hard to be a peacekeeper, right? It's tough work. It's tough work because that same hate that came to destroy families in my neighborhood wants hate to be in my heart and in your hearts. And it's really key that we do not give our peace away. So what we're going to do is, I don't know if anybody remembers the first couple images that were coming out of Buffalo when it was happening, but I know one of the ones that really kept in my mind was pictures of the firearm, the rifle, and what was written on that rifle, the hate that was written on that rifle. And I said, you know what, I want to switch that around somehow. I don't know if you caught it, but raw tools, raw, is war spelled backwards. All right? And that's kind of like what we like to do. We like to take something that's been negative and hateful and turn it into something that's going to give peace and love and kindness to the world. So we have a rifle that's going to be out there on our table. And we have some like chalk-like stuff. And I'd like to write stuff on it. Maybe that's an individual's name, somebody that you lost to suicide. Maybe it's a date. That you lost your father who had taken his own life, or maybe a friend that had been shot. Or maybe it's the triggers of our hearts. We all have triggers, the things that make us want to act on our hate. It could be pride, it could be lust, whatever it might be. Feel free to put that on the gun, and the whole idea is that we're turning it. The one thing that I really remember as I'm closing now on those pictures of the shotgun is at the very end, on the sight of the gun, the N-word was written. As if it was some kind of silly reminder or some sick justification as to what that individual was doing. He knew who he was targeting. My son is adopted from India. My 2 children are adopted from India. And Vignesh asked me days after the shooting. His school is right down the street. He goes to St. Mary's School for the Deaf. He said, Dad, is there a white guy that's going to come to my school? He's going to shoot kids with brown skin. Tough question, right, parents? Do I lie? How do you have those conversations? So I am thrilled to be here today. Thank you so much, because this is a healing thing. I hope it's a healing thing for everyone else, because the world needs some good, and it needs some peace. And if it's all right, I don't know if this is the right time, but David, I'd like to at least present, we have a garden mat that we're going to make today, but we also make some garden spades. And we like to donate to whoever will have us. And whether that can be used here at the church or in our community, we hope that it brings peace to you all. Thank you so much.
What color is that? It's green.
Is everyone ready for audience participation? All right. But you have to wait till the very end of the story. And you will know exactly what to shout out by the end. Believe me, trust me, you will know what to say. Last January, I got up in the morning and took a shower, and as I stepped out of the shower, I was drying off my back, and suddenly I had no feeling in the right arm. I couldn't hold on to the towel. So I knew right away, what is it? Stroke. So my wife Joan rushed me right away to the hospital. We knew what to do. As a matter of fact, the hospital people said, "You guys did exactly the right thing." We didn't even call an ambulance. I didn't say that. Huh? Okay, so after having been wakened up the first night every 15 minutes by my blood pressure taken, and the second night every half hour, I was ready to go home. 2.5 days, ready to go home, get a good night's sleep. So the neurologist came in to give me what I thought was, and turned out to be, my release. Okay, but he had to go through a whole bunch of stuff first. So he said, "How are you feeling?" I said, I'm feeling ready to go home. I'm feeling good. And he said, "Okay, let's take a walk around the ward." He says, "Give me your arm and I'll help you out of bed." And I said, "I don't need any help getting out of bed. I can get out of bed by myself." And he goes, "No way." Oh, okay. Then he looks at my chart. He's looking at my chart. He says, "You're 87 years old?" "No way." And then he said, "Okay, let's take our walk." He says, "Let me take your arm so I can steady you around." I said, "I don't need you to take my arm, believe me. I've been around the ward already this morning 3 times by myself." "No way." So we go starting around, and there's a whole bank of computers there, and he said, "Would you like to see your stroke?" I said, "Sure." And he turns on the computer and does a couple things, and there's my brain coming up, and there's this white spot in there. Whew, okay, that's my stroke. So we continue around, and we're getting a conversation. I find out he has a 3-year-old daughter. And I said, 3 years old. I said, "You know, have you ever heard of Suzuki method?" "I have the book." Okay, so I started to tell him all about our school. You're going to hear some of our kids today. Ithaca Talent Education, all about our wonderful teachers. 3 of them are on the program today, actually. And what a wonderful thing this is, and I go on and on and on, and he says, then I find out he lives in Syracuse after I went through all that. And anyway, we go on, and I finally said to him, I said, "You know," I said, "I am one of the pioneers of Suzuki method in this country. In 1964, when Dr. Suzuki brought 10 children from Japan to the United States to demonstrate his ideas, his philosophy about teaching," I said, "I was there, and I started teaching soon after that." "No way!" So this is how the story goes. Now it's your turn. So they let me go home to my own bed with a slightly crippled hand here that I couldn't hold a fork or write with my signature yet, but it all got all right. That's when I said, I'm going home.
No way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy. He'll be back. Our next group, Hugh McLeay is a composer who has relocated from Florida to Ithaca, and it is our benefit, for sure. You may know of his work in the past. Several years ago, he composed and was produced at Sage Chapel and another place, but the Tenebrae, Passion of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. It was powerful, exciting, just amazing. If you hear it coming again, please look for it. Hugh has another work in progress right now, inspired by some tragic events that he'll speak to you about. The group that is playing some of his music in the beginning of this work in progress, we have a soloist who could not make it for that. We do have a new mezzo-soprano, and her name is Madison Herbold. But then, Hugh.
On December 14th, 2012, 20 children and 6 educators were murdered at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. It was one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. My first reaction to Sandy Hook was one of deep personal rage. Rage at a culture that produces so many young men who are driven to such horrendous violence. I began working on a requiem for these precious little victims and for all of those lives lost from Columbine High Massacre in 1999 to Uvalde today and sadly beyond. But then I hit a wall. Why was I composing this piece? What was the motive? To fuel more rage? Then out of this paralysis, I learned that my rage must become my sorrow. Sorrow for the victims, their parents, and even for the injured spirit of that young man who was also a victim. There's a verse from America the Beautiful that is rarely sung but fitting for us today. It goes like this: America, America, God mend thy every flaw, confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. I found a quote from a little boy who survived that day at Sandy Hook. He led his classmates to safety, saying, quote, I know karate. It's okay, so it's okay. I'll lead the way out. Can the spontaneous, rescuing spirit of a little boy lead us all from this collective rage to collective sorrow, then from sorrow to compassion, then to hope, the hope we all desperately long for? Finally, there is an 8th century Chinese poem by Li Po, only 12 words. My sorrow is like the mountain stream. cold, clear, and running on forever.
Thank you, Hugh. My goodness. Next, we have Marnie and Lauren here, coming out of wonderful traditions of singing, of folk. I know from Marnie has a long history of folk singing. And to end our first act, we'll have an intermission after they are finished. Please feel free to avail yourself of the donation buckets. We are gladly and gleefully take your donations. We'll be back here after intermission, which will be probably about 10 minutes, because we do have a special treat that needs to set up during intermission. We have a rock band at the end of this who's going to come and play, so we can be dancing in the aisles. Lauren. Sure.
Thank you so much, Brianna. We are from Congregation Tikkun V'Or, and this is not the first time we have been radically and lovingly welcomed into this building by David Caden and the First Congregational Church. So it's just a blessing to collaborate with shared values and heart connection. We're going to sing in Hebrew a couple of songs, but we'll make sure that you understand what's happening. This first song we chose inspired by the Garden Tools portion of the day, and with the sort of unapologetically naive notion that the more we connect with the abundance of the earth, the less likely we will be to bring destruction to the life that dwells on it.
And there's a chance for a sing-along, too.
Always for sing-along.
I think it's Keputula.
Adama v'shamayim chum ha'esh tzlil hamayim ani magish zot begufi beruchi v'nishmati. Love the earth, love the sky, heat of fire, drop of water, and I can feel it in my body, in my spirit, in my soul. Adama v'shamayim chum ha'esh tzlil hamayim ani magish zot begufi beruchi v'nishmati. Love the earth, love the sky, lead a fire, drop of water, and I can feel it in my body, in my spirit, in my soul. Yadadai, 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 This second song is a prayer, and it's so simple, and I don't know why it's choking me up, because it just asks that the source of peace in the universe brings peace to all the peoples of the earth. Ose shalom b'imromav, Uyase shalom, Uyase shalom aleinu, Yase shalom aleinu, Ose shalom b'imromav, Uyase shalom, Uyase shalom aleinu, Yase shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol, ve'al kol, ve'al kol, Yisrael. Ve'al kol, ve'al kol, ve'al kol, Yoshvei Tevel.
For all the world. Ve'yimeru, amen. Ve'yimeru, amen. We ask for peace on earth, and we say amen. Ve'yimeru, amen. Ve'yimeru, amen. We raise our voice as one, and we say amen. This last song that we're doing before the intermission, in your programs, you have the words to sing along. Give me the warm power of the sun. This is a song written by songwriter John Hall in the 1960s. It was very popular in the 60s and 70s as an anti-nuclear weapons song, so it was against atomic power. And John's message was, there's a lot of ways to feel powerful in the world. There's a lot of ways to find power in the world. But maybe guns and atomic weapons are not the way. And so I have adapted some of the words, added a verse for our mission today. So we're going to try that first verse together, and then we'll sing that once through so you get the hang of it, and then you'll get to sing it with us. Give me the warm power of the sun. Give me the steady flow of a waterfall. Give me the spirit of living things as they return to earth. Give me the restless power of the wind. Give me the comforting glow of a wood fire. But won't you take all your guns and give them back to the earth? Try that with us. Give me the warm power of the sun. Give me the steady flow of a waterfall. Give me the spirit of living things as they return to earth. Give me the restless power of the wind. Give me the comforting glow of a wood fire. But won't you take all your guns and give them back to the earth? I know we all want to feel safe. Keep the ones we love from danger and hate. Some try a way to take control, but they're tempting fate. I know that lives are at stake, yours and mine and our descendants in time. So much to gain, so much to lose. You know that every one of us has to choose. Now give me the warm power of the sun. Give me the steady flow of a waterfall. Give me the spirit of living things as they return to earth. That's great, a little louder. Give me the restless power. There you go. Give me the comforting glow of a wood fire. But won't you take all your guns and give them back to the earth? There was a time we lived by the sword, a time when the warrior was adored. Now we know that love is the strongest force, and it's time to change. We all will live together and free. Hand in hand we can find the way to peace. It's time to shape our guns into tools and grow a garden where only love rules. Now give me the warm power of the sun. Give me the steady flow of a waterfall. Give me the spirit of living things as they return to earth. Give me the restless power of the wind. comforting glow of a wood fire. But won't you take all your guns and give them back to the
Take
earth?
all your guns,
Sing it one more time like you mean it. Let's go. Give me the warm power of the sun. Give me the steady flow. Get up and dance if you want. Give me the spirit of living things as they return to earth. Give me the restless power of the wind. Give me the comforting glow of a wood fire. But won't you take all your guns and give them back to, take all your guns and give them back to, take all your guns, give them back to the earth.
Thank you so much. We will see you in 10 minutes. If you have stretched your legs long enough, we will start with a wonderful treat. The Ithaca Talent Education have come and to provide us what it means to begin violin. They are spectacular. Thank you for returning, and we're ready for the second act.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Kathy McHugh for wonderful leadership Thank you, children. The year was 1978. A millionaire, that's somebody with lots of money, from Atlanta, Georgia, had met Suzuki and became very interested in what he was doing. He actually built him another building next to his Kaikan in Matsumoto for more educational things. So Suzuki not only had a music school, but he had a kindergarten and so on. And this fellow, his name was David Smith, he decided that he needed to get rid of some of his money. So he hatched this plan to have 100 Japanese children selected from all over Japan to join with 100 American children from all over our country and to tour the East Coast. Well, it just so happened I was president of the Suzuki Association at the time, and I knew exactly the people that could help pull this off. But unfortunately, he decided he'd have all his office staff do it. What do they know about touring with young children and touring and getting this? So anyway, I'm not going to tell this story because it takes me about an hour. But there was one after another catastrophe that happened during this thing. I'll just tell you a story that has nothing to do with that. Okay, so the concerts were scheduled for Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. That was the first one. Then we went to Atlanta Symphony Hall, and then ended up in Carnegie Hall in New York City. I conducted the teacher's orchestra to accompany the first half of the concert. So I conducted in Carnegie Hall. Oh, thank you. So anyway. No way. Good for you. We have a new convert. The new way. No way. Okay, so all these kids are there. The Japanese kids and the American kids never saw each other, ever, except on stage. We stayed in different hotels. We ate in different restaurants. We were just, and this was called the Friendship Tour. How can you meet, how can you have friendship between two groups of people like that if you never are together? I don't know. So anyway, that's part of this story. The first couple of days we spent touring Washington. So the first day we went on tour, we had all these buses. I had 10 American teachers, each in charge of 10 students. And we got on the bus, and I saw this girl, she's all by herself. And I said, wouldn't you like somebody to sit with you? You know, the kids didn't know each other, but most of them had somehow made friends, but not this girl. She says, no, I'm fine. Okay. And we got through the White House, and everybody got all mixed up because Rosalind Carter, who was President Carter's wife, well, he was president at the time, she came out and met everybody, and everybody got all mixed up, and then each of the teachers had a colored flag on a pole and stood outside at the exit, and as the kids came out, they all gathered around their colored flag, and I stood there with mine, and I only had 9 children. So, what to do? I stood there for what seemed like, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, nobody came out. Then somebody came running back from the restaurant, which was our next stop, saying, "We found her. She went with one of the other groups." I don't know who the teacher was who had 11 students, but it's probably just as well, huh? So then we had the concert at Kennedy Center. And the kids had to get there about 2 hours ahead of time and stay downstairs while the dogs sniffed all through the auditorium because the president was going to be in attendance. And I conducted the first half of the concert, and then Suzuki did the second half with piano instead of with orchestra like I had orchestra, little teacher's orchestra. And so I was standing backstage on one of and the Secret Service, you know, they do this silly stuff. They said, the president is going to come up on the other side of the stage. Oh, okay. So a bunch of people standing there, they run back around and get over to the other side. Then over there on the other side, they'd say, oh, the president is coming on this side of the stage. And I thought, this is just all silliness that they do to try to, I don't know, protect the president, I guess. Anyway, the president came up on my side of the stage because I just stayed there. And I got a chance to greet President Carter as he went out on stage. And he and Dr. Suzuki had this embrace, and the people all stood and standing ovation and all this love and everything. And all of a sudden, I felt this presence behind me. And I turned around, and here was a 6'4" gentleman, African American, dressed in full naval uniform. And as I looked down, he had a chain around his wrist connected to a briefcase, the so-called, I don't know what I call it, but I realized all of a sudden this was the codes to the nuclear destruction of whatever. A chill ran up my spine.
Thank you, Sandy. For our next offering, about 50 years ago on Broadway, there's a musical that opened up, and it had a man and a woman, and sooner or later through that musical, the man finally said, I better ask my wife. Phil and Tricia.
I have decided to give my permission for them to become engaged. I like Perchik. He's a little odd, but I like him. More important, Huddle likes him. Huddle loves him. It's a new world. It's a new world, Goldie. Love. Goldie, do you love me?
Do I what?
do you love me?
Do I love you? With our daughters getting married and the troubles in this town, you're upset, you're worn out, go inside, lie down. Maybe it's indigestion.
Golda, I'm asking you a question. Do you love me?
You are a fool.
I know, but do you love me?
Do I love you? For 25 years I've washed your clothes, cooked your meals, cleaned the house, given you children, milked a cow. After 25 years, why talk about love right now?
Golda, the first time I met you was on our wedding day. I was scared.
I was shy.
I was nervous.
So was I.
But my father and my mother said we'd learn to love each other. And now I'm asking, Golda, do you love me?
I'm your wife.
I know, but do you love me?
Do I love him? For 25 years I've lived with him, fought with him, starved with him. 25 years, my bet is his. If that's not love, what is?
Then you love me.
I suppose I do.
And I suppose I love you too.
It doesn't change a thing, but even so, after 25 years, it's nice to know.
Can you hear me? People often ask me, how do you write a poem? What are you thinking about? And then usually I have no answer. I can say that my method is to wait for a first line, and then the poem takes over. But the first poem I'm going to read is the answer to the question of a daughter. And she said, "You're always writing about family history. I want to know about the before." And I said, "Before what?" And she said, "Before we were born." So this is what I have written. We were so young, and the world so transparent. We could reach out a hand, and the thing wanted was soon in our grasp. We had nothing. We were happy with nothing. We had each other. Always assuming the necessaries and the longed for were just temporarily out of reach, perhaps taking for granted the energy that flowed in our veins. We bought an old house, no plumbing, no heating, for a pittance, but it had an outhouse that faced north, so we could sit and be dazzled by the northern lights that threw flaming streamers across the horizon. Only a few years later, when the green and the red flashed in the sky, we rushed into the house to grab sleeping babies and show them one of the wonders of their new world. The house had an old orchard with yellow transparent apples, a prized variety. We plucked them and packed them in baskets to grace our kitchen. A city visitor looked down at them, wrinkling her nose in disapproval, seeing only the brown and red pockmarks all over their thin skins. "I know where you can get some good apples," she said, waltzing out the door. And when she was out of hearing, we laughed and laughed and laughed. We had secret knowledge of taste and succulence, a not unusual state of affairs, I might say, in our yellow and transparent world. This poem is written during the pandemic, and I have a group of poems written during the pandemic. This is the first one. Not so funny. Such a funny day, such a funny time. Voices appear from nowhere, asking, "How are you?" as though their anxiety is any help at all. I don't know how I am and have no means to measure. I, a person never without a rule and pen in hand, I don't know how I am. Touch is one of the things forbidden in this funny time. But when they ask, "How are you?" my answer is, I try to be happy. In my head are words, thousands of words, and language paints my wounds. So let those questions rain down on me. I can be happy, I say. In this funny time, I've got poetry. And the last one is, I think, appropriate that I am reading it in a church because it's occasioned by my being part of a chorus that sang in the St. Matthew Passion. Something gained, something lost. When I asked my Catholic friend, did he believe in the virgin birth, the resurrection, he was taken aback but not insulted. They are stories, he said, wonderful stories. What I believe in is the value of ritual. Though I had no background in church or synagogue, I felt the absence of ritual on occasions like birth. Who would not want to bless a baby? Imagine, if you will, not listening to, but singing in the St. Matthew's Passion. I did not experience a miracle, but in 60s jargon, it was a happening. And I came to a new understanding through music. Preparing for the performance required hours and months of practice and rehearsal, singing the lines over and over again until the music and, oh God, the words pushed into every interstice of brain and heart. It became my vision of the Christian story that Bach enshrined. A secular route, but not to be despised. I had gained something profound. I had lost something unworthy. And I never again questioned the beliefs of my Catholic friend. Thank you.
Jeannie and Nancy are no strangers to collaboration with each other, helping to marry poetry and dance. This afternoon, Jeannie will be reading Stars at Sea from her book, Keep Moving, Poems for What's Next. And they've enlisted the help of one of their friends.
Stars at Sea. You and me with stars at sea. Tiny lights up in the sky blinking slowly as we go by on wide expanse of waterway. Waves bouncing gently all night and day. Each star in place, doing what it must, staying in place, looking down on us. Slowly and surely and right on time, the stars are covered and out of sight until they return the following night. Since time began, they have been there, listening to hopes and dreams and prayers. We can be at sea anywhere. Your sea may be your load of care when you don't know what to do. That's when your sea can overtake you. Remember the stars way up in the sky. They're there for you, sent from on high.
Il mare ci fa galleggiare lungo le rive chiare, con i suoi movimenti incoraggia l'amore, dai sentimenti incostanti quando piove. Il mare baraonda d'estate, di onde bianche spruzzate. Tu com'eri salata, col cuore celeste di azzurri infiniti. I pianti, le ansie stagnanti, le grandi piante bagnate. Risate, t'ho amato tanto, le case arrugginite e il mare che le ha cullate lungo le rive chiare. È una canzone d'amore, il mare culla il mio cuore nella vita. ridi all'ombra eccitante di grandi piante bagnate, i pianti quanto t'ho amata in case arrugginite, e il mare che le ha cullate lungo le rive chiare. È una canzone d'amore, il mare che culla il mio cuore nella vita.
New projects are hard to get started. It needs a driving force, it needs a vision, it needs somebody to embody those things. We're so thankful that our community, even as from far away as North Carolina, we have such a person in Joan Anderson who still cares about our community and our larger world, that you will be that driving force to introduce us to and have us begin this wonderful mission. Joan, thank you for putting this together and launching this for us. Appreciate it. We all do from the bottom of our heart. Joan Anderson has a story to tell.
Can you imagine leaving a home in the boonies of Trumansburg and going to India to live for a year with 3 children, ages 14 to 8? Can you imagine that there might have been a little bit of a jolt? Well, this is what happened one of the times. I can't read it. We'll see what's happening. I guess the glasses have to be changed. The celebration day dawned bright and sunny, as was usual in the summertime in India. But this was a special day, August 25th, the day of my son Dale's 9th birthday. We were away from all of our family, so we couldn't celebrate with them or with our friends. But this was a special day. Something big was on the horizon. Dale's choice for his special celebration that day was to ride on the back of an elephant. He had come to India without ever seeing an elephant in person, but he had become passionate about them. And when we traveled around the country, he watched them. He did research and looked up information about them. And when it came time for each of the family members to choose this particular item as a memento from India, he chose elephants. He already had some in his collection. But now he was looking forward to actually experiencing one in his own right, in the real world, not one in a display case. But then, as his mother, I'm thinking, how am I going to find an elephant in India, and one that would come to our home or anywhere near us? So with some sleuthing on my part and help from some Indian friends, I did locate a trainer who said he would bring an elephant to our driveway. Dale didn't get home until 3 o'clock from school, and he said, I'll be there at 3 o'clock. Not to me, but to the people who are interpreting. I was amazed. All day, as I was wondering whether the elephant would really appear, because in this land where there is quasi-communication, one thinks one's communicated, but in the strange language of Hindi, one never knew, and I wasn't very expert in Hindi. But the problem was we didn't have a backup plan. If this didn't work, what were we going to do? There was no other plan for a celebration. As I prepared for the family dinner, I looked out the window, which fronted the main highway, and there, to my surprise, and frustration and consternation, an elephant was turning into our driveway. It was huge. It was the hugest elephant I have ever seen. And the trainer was a little man dressed in the usual loosely fitting, gauze-like fabric clothes. He looked sheepish. No doubt he was not used to bringing his elephant into a foreigner's home or driveway. I was flustered. What could I do? He was an hour early. How was I going to keep him there? The stakes were high. Dale was hoping so much for this to happen. How was I going to keep this man and his elephant there, and I could hardly speak his language? I tried to speak, but nothing happened. I spoke, but the trainer just did not respond, nor did the elephant. The trainer just looked at me wide-eyed. Suddenly, I had a thought. I knew elephants like popcorn, and I had plenty of that in my pantry. So quickly, I got out a dilapidated popcorn pot, and I began the process of popping popcorn, wishing it would pop as quickly as possible, and gesturing to the trainer with my hands, please wait. Probably he thought I was just trying to get his attention, but he did stay, probably more out of curiosity than understanding. Never have I wanted popcorn to pop so fast in my life. It seemed everlastingly slow. Finally, when I had a whole pot full, I rushed outside with this edible offering to see if it would be an acceptable lure for the elephant and a time taker until Dale arrived. Gratefully, the elephant showed interest in the contents of the popcorn pot, and the trainer fed it to him. I breathed a sigh of relief. When the popcorn was consumed with gusto in seconds, it seemed, I was then faced again with the nerve-wracking question, what can I do now? It's still a long time until Dale comes back. But I had success under my belt. I had one thing I knew to try. So I popped more popcorn. Again, and again, and again. Running from pot to elephant, from elephant to pot. When I was at the point of exhaustion, popping corn and rushing out to the elephant and rushing back to the kitchen, I spotted Dale walking breezily along the road, unaware of what he was about to see. His sister merrily walked along beside him. Dale turned into the driveway, meeting up with the backside of the elephant. Reflected in his widening eyes was the impression that in the spinning of the planet, it had come to an unbelievable place. There in the middle of his driveway stood a real elephant in all its glory. Dale stood stock still in amazement. I leapt out of the door and ran across the intervening ground to hug Dale. At this point, he was the rescuer, not me. And within a few minutes, Dale was on the back of the elephant. Of course, the elephant had had to kneel so that Dale could walk up the trunk to get onto his back. As the elephant went down the road, walking at the side of the road, the trainer leading him, and Dale sitting high on his back, he was atop the elephant. But for my 9-year-old son, he might just as well have been on top of the world. Thank you. We have a common heritage. We have families, and we love our children most of the time. And when something happens to any one of them, it influences and affects the whole family. After the Uvalde shooting tragedy, I was sad and outraged. I'd been sitting on the sidelines for years, not knowing what to do, feeling powerless. What could I do? This is such a major, violent course of action that our country people are taking. And it doesn't seem as if there's much being done to stop it. But I had an idea. And I called David, and I said, would you accept an offer of helping to put on a fundraiser for gun safety? I don't know whether he fell over or whether he just was being nice, but he said, of course I have something in mind. So he was way ahead of me. He said, we're working with this project from guns to garden tools. And being a gardener, my ears perked up. And I knew that he was doing something wonderful. So together with a team of people from 3 congregations, we coordinated an event which you're here to enjoy. I hope you're enjoying. And to create a base, potentially, for Ithaca being a place for another chapter of the guns to garden tools. By starting this event and beginning to create awareness with your help, with your being here and your being so responsive, we have planted seeds, or we're planting seeds. And those seeds could come into a flourishing garden where there is more love, more respect, more opportunity to stop even a few guns from being used violently, but could be used for garden tools or for giving solace to people who have lost their family members. We have an opportunity. I was on the sidelines for so long. It's a chance for me and for you, if you wish, to donate to this that will go into making opportunities for this project to flourish. I hope you will take it and run with it. Thank you.
I'm hoping I will see right now a whole row empty right out and run up here. You guys are next. Run.
Do you want to mention about the reception and the demonstration, Bill?
We have 10 young people who all attend the high school at Lansing, who have come here to close out our afternoon and get us up and moving and send us off with joy and excitement and a small driving beat in our heart. It is an example of what one person can do if they just stand up and say, you want to follow me and do this? Abigail had the guts to stand up in front of, I guess it was your choir, is that right? Choir, and say, hey, I have this thing that my mom is trying to get me to do. You want to? Don't they always? Would you want to join, want to come with me and put together a band and do this? And you know what? 10 of them said, 9 others of them said yes. This is awesome. So with that, you guys don't have a name for a band yet, but I hope you do someday. You guys good?
Promise to love you forever. be with you. Waterloo, I was defeated, you won the war. Waterloo, promise to love you forevermore. Waterloo, couldn't escape if I wanted to. Waterloo, knowing my fate is to be with you. Waterloo, finally facing my
So the saddest part about it, this is they formed the band Monday. They haven't had time to practice an encore yet. Thank you. Would you like to hear it again? Would you play it again for us? Just say yes on this one. Go. Fantastic. Thank you so much for doing that. Let us embarrassing you to do it a second time. We appreciate it greatly. A quick note to Mark and Mike, the Bills won. It was an exciting game and heart-stopping. The other part is that the afternoon does not stop. Downstairs is a reception. So please, avail yourself of the lovely treats and food and fellowship that we have downstairs for you. You can get down, if you head out the back doors, turn left, find some stairs that go down. That's also where there's a demonstration going on, which is sure to be breathtaking. Again, thank you for all letting us entertain you and for being here to be entertained.